Good morning, ARG agents. This is Kevin Lauren. I'm the Director of Training and Marketing here, and I'm this morning joined by our CEO of Clearview Mortgage, Bill Seitz. Good morning, Bill.
Good morning, Kevin. How are we?
Doing great. Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about writing purchase offers, and Bill's got a couple of really good examples of letters that can join those purchase offers in order to kind of push the sellers over the edge in your favor. So we're going to go through a lot of that good stuff. But as usual, I'd like to have Bill kind of tell us what's going on in mortgage land. And I'll bring up the U.S. 10-year Treasury graph for us to take a look at. So Bill, what's going on in mortgage land?
Perfect, Kevin. It's nice to be back on the call. I know I've been absent last couple of weeks,
Yeah.
and it's always nice to get back on the call with you guys. And I want to just real quick mention we want to just make a shout out to Mary Jo Kirsch, who works out here in the Southern California area, and she just brought on 4 new listings to Alta, and we're really proud of her for all her hard work. And just wanted to give her a shout out and let her know that we recognize it and that it's just an outstanding job. So
Yeah, and Mary Jo is one of those agents that, is a newer agent with us, but she's really using the tools. She's taking the training seriously, and so I'm really proud of her. She's doing a great job.
absolutely. And additionally, we want to thank everyone who was able to stop by last week and meet the team, come by, get their fresh headshot, and have a little bite of food, and just come and network and mingle with our team. It was really a nice event. So thank you for everyone who was able to come by to that.
Yeah, for sure. And then again, we're going to be doing the same event up in the Northern California area. I'm hoping I'm going to get that done in December. If worst comes to worst, we'll push it into January, but I will of course be letting everybody know about that because it's so important for us to have current good headshots. And it's just always nice to meet all of our agents face to face and say hi. So yeah, we'll be announcing that very shortly.
Oh, that's awesome, Kevin. So yeah, if we look at the chart here, and I was looking at it this morning before we got on, you can see a real choppy trend here since really since the middle of August.
Yeah.
And you can see some spikes and some drops, and we really bottomed out at the beginning of September in this run, and then we've had some real sharp moves upward, sharp moves downward, and it's really been a choppy ride ever since that moment. But like we've been saying for weeks and months now, it's really a great time to make any moves financially for either consolidating debt or purchasing a property. So I don't really see this, everything that I'm reading and everything that I'm looking at, I don't really see the market going either way too much, just based on economic news and political news. But we'll definitely be keeping an eye on it and keeping everybody informed.
That's great, Bill. Yeah, the bottom line is it's, we can't expect for it to go much lower. So, and trying to time the market and trying to time the bottom of the market is never a good idea. Just, right now, money's cheap. It's a good idea. I appreciate Bill and Clearview Mortgage. I just did a refi on my home, and so was able to lock in a great rate and even pull a tiny bit of cash out of equity and do some repairs that were needed on my home. So not a better time to do that.
No, and I think we dropped your rate, Kevin, by about we dropped it. You had it's lower than what you had, and then you got the cash out you need. So we'll come back and look at it in 6 months after the 180-day rule of sticking with that loan, and we'll look at dropping it down into the mid to high threes. So strategy is key too, and if anybody needs a little chat on that, we'd love to have an opportunity to discuss it with you.
Yep, Bill's right there. And Bill, thank you so much. So without further ado, we're going to hop into the bulk of our program today, which is going to be talking about purchase offers, writing purchase offers. And really, writing purchase offers, there is an art to it. But I just want to go through, before Bill goes through a couple of really good examples, just kind of quickly want to go through some of the basics, because I know a lot of the people that are with us have been doing real estate for a long time, some of them not so much, and some of them getting back into real estate. So I think it's a good idea to just go through some of these really important points, just to keep us focused and to keep our thinking going in the right direction. So tips for writing a real estate offer, or an offer to purchase as it's known. A lot of times buyers get really excited about finding the perfect home. They sometimes don't really think too much about what comes next, which is really can be the most important thing. We get really emotional, and our buyers get really emotional when we're looking at homes, and they're excited and they're thinking about what's going on, with the future of their family and all kinds of really important stuff. But we've got to make sure that we wrangle them in, and we really, do the purchase offer correctly. Right, Bill?
100%. And when I look at that number one, Kevin, it says use the correct form. You really can't really mess up the right form for a standard, single family, home or condo, because it's the residential purchase agreement. But there are a lot of forms that do get updated. And if Travis is on this call, he can attest to this. There's a lot of forms that get updated through car attorneys and through people in the industry. And sometimes you can not be aware of a form that has changed, or there's new substance to the form because of maybe previous litigation, or the car, attorneys have determined that it wasn't efficient enough to, the form as it was not efficient enough to cover areas that they're seeing problems in the industry. So I think it's really important, as you are using not only the purchase agreement, you need to be aware of the additions to the purchase agreement. I think when I started real estate about 20 years ago, I think the RPA, the purchase agreement, was about, it's either maybe 7 pages long.
Right.
And now I think it's either 10 or 12. So you can see what they've added, and they've just, unfortunately we live in a litigious society, and people are going to try to, attorneys are going to try to find things that they can shoot holes in. And that's why you see the purchase agreement, continually to evolve and grow. And if you're not familiar with the changes, well, then you're going to have a disadvantage representing your clients. And you're also going to have more exposure to yourself and the brokerage.
For sure.
So,
and then there's also, there could be, things that happen with a manufactured home, or with some, land purchases. So there's different kinds of things that may also dictate, what you need to use. Correct, Bill?
Absolutely. Yeah. You need to be really clear on what kind of property you're writing the offer for your client, and obviously taking that into consideration.
And just default to your local board. CAR and the local boards work well with them. So if you're ever in question, just contact your local board and just make sure that you're using the correct form. That's kind of an easy one. And then number 2 is so important. Determine the price. And a lot of and some courts have ruled that you can't do things like, or offers are not allowed to include things like acceleration clauses. I'll pay $1,000 more than your best offer. So you've got to check and make sure that when you're creating this purchase agreement, that you're doing things correctly. And then of course you have a price in mind, but you got to put it in writing, and you need to be able to price this properly. Now, obviously, we understand that in buyers markets or in sellers markets, it's different. Generally, you obviously want to offer a tiny bit less than what you expect to pay. But if you're in some of these smoking seller markets where they're getting multiple bids, and this is where Bill's letter will come into play, you can't go in there and lowball it. It's just a bad call. So selecting that price is so key, and it's not a bad idea to bounce it off of other people, run CMAs, be real cognizant of making that correct price, because I can't tell you how important that is, right, Bill?
Yeah, the price in a hot market, it can be the most frustrating. As a realtor, it can be the most frustrating situation you're going to find yourself in. And the reason being is, if you're competing, you have a willing buyer, that's financeable. Everything you have is you're loaded with all the things that you need to get a transaction. However, the market is not in your favor because there's low inventory, and there's multiple offers on every deal. The best thing you can do is educate your clients to the best of your ability and show them why they need to be competitive in that initial offer price, because otherwise you're not going to have a chance. If your clients are thinking that they're going to be able to offer 5-10% below asking, and you're writing offer after offer after offer and you're not getting any traction, you're wasting your time and you're wasting your client's time, and you're not going to get a deal in escrow.
Yep.
So in those hot markets, you really, I mean, I would really take the time to give specific examples. Take your clients by the houses that are sold over asking. Show them exactly where this property was listed, what it sold for, and show them exact examples of how this property went from list price to close price, over X market, and why they need to be offering full price minimum.
Yeah.
And those are in obviously in hot markets. We are seeing a little bit of softening around, the different areas depending on where you're located, but that's just something to keep in mind.
Oh, big time. And so, I mean, that's such a big one, Bill. Let's not discount that at all. So also, number 3 is make the initial deposit, of course. So most states require that we make a earnest money, a good faith money deposit. So what is that going to be? What does it need to be? Might be cash, might be personal check, might be personal property, right? The bottom line is that it has to be something set determined value, and it's got to be spelled out. So, making that initial deposit, and sometimes that is the amount of the deposit or the way the deposit is held can give a seller a lot of confidence, right?
For sure. I depending on the situation here, if you're working with first-time buyers, you're working with buyers that are, they've never, purchased a home, or it's their first experience. Sometimes getting them to put more than 1% down can be challenging, and sometimes it's less than 1%.
Yeah.
I've seen it where people put like $500 down just because they really don't have the assets, and they're maybe getting their funds from family or friends.
Yeah.
So, in those situations, sometimes you just have to let the listing agent know, hey, just so you know, this is why we wrote the contract the way we did. We can prove that they're getting the funds from the family. We can show the assets over here, even though my client doesn't really have, in their account right this second. It's all about understanding the situation. If, in my experience, when I've written offers for clients and I've, represented them, if I know that they do have the healthy account, the healthy asset to put down a stronger deposit, I will always recommend that. It does make a difference in the seller's eyes. Even though escrow is holding this money and it's not essentially being utilized, you're not, you haven't released any contingencies. You're just basically just trying to open escrow and to get this thing started. A healthier deposit will make it look much stronger in the eyes of the seller and give you a much better chance of getting that offer accepted.
Yeah, psychologically, the seller is going, oh, this person's very, very interested, right?
Yeah, make an assessment. Understand, and that's the thing that we want to convey here, is that try to go a little deeper in this and think about your client's financial position and what they have to bring to the table, and make your suggestion on writing the offer based around that, so you can present the strongest offer. Sure. Don't just write 1% just because we're telling you that's kind of a customary. Like, you can write up to 3%. You can, you know what I mean? You can. It's not uncommon to do that. So utilize your client situation to give yourself the best chance and your client the best chance. While at the same time, obviously, keep in mind you never want to lose anyone's deposit. You never want to have them exposed to any kind of loss or issue. It's one thing that I take pride in, and I've been licensed for 20 years or so. I've never had anyone lose their deposit. So being very diligent along the way, understanding when to release contingencies, when to do things, and when to keep my client protected. Even in the financing side nowadays, that's what I do more of. I'm doing a lot of this stuff, and I have to be able to tell whether it's an Alta agent or another agent that I work with, hey, we're good to go. We can release the appraisal contingency. We can release the loan contingency. We have full approval. or we keep that in place to keep the client from having any exposure to losing that deposit. So important.
So key. So if number four is obviously you have to disclose your down payment. And four and five, really, if you're working with Bill, with Clearview, and you're getting your clients pre-approved, and you're going to know these things. You're going to know the exact amount of down payment they're going to probably come up with. You're also going to know that your financing terms. So disclosing the down payment, same thing. It tells the seller exactly what your plan is, right? And then, yeah, so, buyers generally make their down payments, readily available in cash, right?
Well, yeah, and if you get properly pre-approved, you're going to have to show where your money's coming from,
Yeah,
and that's why they call it seasoned funds. So when you get pre-approved, they ask for 2 months full bank statements, all pages. Whether it's whether you're pulling off of an investment account or whether you have it in your, somebody has it in your checking or savings. The bank wants to know that those monies have been sitting in a financial institution for over 60 days. And that's how they determine whether or not this money has been, kind of sitting there. It's not coming in from some, weird account, or, in their eyes, they have their own rules and, things that they have to follow as far as, countering money laundering and, all that.
it's not coming from Chapo Guzman's account.
Yeah, it's not coming from a Colombian cartel member, but it is important to a proper pre-approval will reflect and show where those monies are coming from.
Yeah, so basically 4 and 5 really gets taken care of with that. Talking with Bill, getting the pre-approvals. So 6 is include the contingencies. Huge. There's so many things that, and this is really protecting our buyers. Making sure that things that are need to be fixed are going to be fixed, and if they're not, it's a contingency. We're going to the contract's null, right?
Well, the thing about this is, no, there's an art to this, because sometimes in a hot market, you're going to waive a contingency potentially. Maybe you have a cash buyer.
Sure.
Maybe they can buy the property all cash. Maybe you don't need a loan contingency. Maybe that's going to separate you from the next guy.
Mm-hmm.
So understand where you may have an advantage, where you can structure the contract, but you don't need to maybe have that every single contingency in place. Maybe you want to just keep the inspection contingency in place. You really want to be aware of what your client is trying to do and what is needed to protect them. And Travis or myself or can certainly help if you guys have questions at certain situations. How do you think I should structure this? Start with Travis. He's the corporate broker. But you certainly, if for some reason Travis is not available, you can certainly reach out to me. Plenty of experience here in this department, and we'll help you out.
For sure. Yeah, Bill is a great asset for all of you guys. Travis, of course, is the corporate broker, but Bill is a broker. He, has the experience, so please utilize him. So number 7 is address possession in detail. So, this is a huge one. More battles have been fought over possession of the properties, when you're going to take possession than you can possibly imagine, right? So it's like, sometimes it's, a day or two after closing, or sometimes there's, some other kind of time frame, and you may want to execute a rental agreement to protect all the parties if you're taking possession prior to the closing. That happens sometimes too, right, Bill?
This is very important, and this is not to be overlooked, because what can happen is you write the contract and nothing stated in the contract exactly, the 30-day escrow, right? Okay, we started on the 1st, we're going to close on the 30th, da 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 da. Well, in the MLS, it says close with escrow +3. And so, but it doesn't say that in anywhere in the purchase contract. It says that nowhere in any addendums. There's nowhere in anyone's, but it was disclosed in the MLS printout. And I've seen where it becomes a big shit show. Sorry for my language, but it's something you need to be very, very aware of, and just mindset yourself to really clarify that. I think that's a huge one.
Oh, yeah. And then 8, spell out who pays the fees. This is massive. The fees can be paid, different fees can be paid by one party or another. And, obviously there's customarily, certain, parties will pay certain fees, but it's all subject to negotiation, right?
100%. There are customary fees, buyer, seller, pay their each their own escrow, title, da, da, da. But it doesn't have to be that way.
Mm-mm.
So, be aware of that. It can be structured any which way, despite customary things. That doesn't mean that's the rule,
No.
So just be aware of that. And if you need to ask for certain things, don't be afraid to ask for it. You might
Right.
not always get it, but you can ask for it.
Yeah, and again, this is part of that art of structuring these deals. Sometimes you gotta, pay attention to the little things like fees. You could push the scale, or you could push the balance into your favor by utilizing fees. Heck yeah, all of it. It's all really, really important. Nine, request special reports. If there's certain, things that your buyers are interested in, or there's certain things that they are not sure of, make sure that we're requesting special reports if it's needed. So the one thing that's bad is you don't want to get halfway down a transaction, and then all of a sudden you didn't address one of your buyer's concerns, right? It's a massive problem that can happen. So you got to address all the issues that you want to be investigated: mold, roofing, whatever it is, in order to make sure that you are protecting your buyer, right?
100%. We always have to be protecting our clients at all times.
I
At
mean,
all
we're
times.
we're we have a fiduciary responsibility, so that's a big deal there. Number 10 is clearly state the expiration of your offer. Obvious, but hey, we got to think about this, because we know that deals sometimes fall apart because the buyers don't allot enough time for the sellers to respond, right? So we
What?
have to make
Yeah.
make sure our expiration of our offer is reasonable, however, not open ended. It's got to be a reasonable expiration, right?
Yeah, this one you see all sorts of things out there.
Mm-hmm.
The contract's written. If you don't check anything, you don't change anything. I'm pretty sure it's 72 hours, so 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
So if I submit an offer on your behalf, Kevin, I send it off to the listing agent. The offer is basically valid for 72 hours. There obviously is a place you can accelerate that time frame, or or shrink it based on what you're trying to accomplish, and based on the competition, or the timeline of which you're trying to get somebody to sign it. It can get, I've seen people put 1 day in there, which sometimes can be hard because maybe the listing agent can't get to the seller, or they can't meet in time. But you got to just use your best judgment, understand the circumstances around the offer and the time that you're trying to get a response, and just be a little bit flexible within that too. Because if you're just trying to shove an offer down a listing agent's throat, and she can't even, or he can't get to the seller in time, I mean, your 1 day is going to look silly.
Very silly.
So
And then 11, check it again, check it a third time, have an assistant check it. Everybody, all people are basically turned off by sloppiness. I am. So if you want your offer to get accepted, you want everything to look good. You don't want to have typos. You don't want to have spelling problems and grammar mistakes. So really, really good idea to just always check it again for accuracy. It's never, you can't check it enough. So, you just want to make sure everything is right before you turn that in. So
super important. There's a lot of boxes. There's a lot of things to fill out. You got to be very, very careful with this stuff. You're basically writing a legal contract. We're borderline attorneys in a weird way. We're supposed to understand a portion of law, and we're supposed to understand a portion of contractual, structure.
yeah,
So don't take this stuff lightly. Be very diligent in what you're doing, and check it again. Yeah, I mean, I can't say that enough. Double check it, triple check it.
and then the last thing is, so all of these things are so important, but then writing a letter to those sellers and, explaining your buyer's position, and even a couple of other things can be really helpful. So Bill, you've been really successful. Here's an example of one of the letters that you wrote for your client. You can go ahead and go through this.
Yeah, so Kevin and I were just chatting. We always kind of brainstorm on certain topics that we think are relevant, in these webinars. And we do these primarily to help bring value to what we think is important for you guys to do and acquire skill sets in the marketplace of selling real estate. And most of you may not know this, but before I got into lending and learning the banking side of things, I used to sell real estate. I have done a lot of transactions. I used to, when I got started in this business, I worked with a top producer over at Prudential in Irvine. Is a friend of Kevin and mine growing up, and this guy was the ultimate sales guy. So I got thrown into the fire with this guy, and learned a lot of things and developed a lot of my own, things that I thought were important along the way. One thing I think is very important. I think this is something that hopefully you feel is valuable. Writing a proper cover letter on top of your purchase agreement does many, many things. Okay. And I'm just going to read through this real quick, just so we can all, look at it. It says, Peter, thank you for presenting this offer to your sellers. My clients are really excited about the opportunity to purchase this property. They currently live right down the street on Star Drive and just celebrated their daughter's first birthday. They feel the home would be a great place for them. They love the layout and the neighborhood. David and Erica are non-contingent buyers, can close in under 30 days. David works for a Union Bank in the derivative training department and is dialed in with their executive employee financing. We wrote the escrow time frame to be 30 days, but fully expect the capacity to close in 21 to 24 days. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I can be reached directly here. We look forward to the opportunity of opening escrow. Best. So if you were to get a letter like this and on your listing, I think you'd be like, wow, somebody took the time to write a letter basically outlining the overall structure of the offer. And it really touches on when Peter presents this to his seller, they're going to know basically enough about the offer, enough about the client that's going to touch an emotional component, right? Because when people sell their home, they typically want to know that somebody's going to, have a happy, they want to deliver the home to somebody who's going to enjoy the property. They have memories there. They have their children grew up, or maybe they, there's a lot of emotional.
It's emotional.
Leaving a property is just as emotional as buying a property.
Yeah.
And I think this really has the opportunity to set you apart as, somebody's getting 3 offers and you have this nice letter. Even if you are not maybe the highest offer, they might just want to work with you because they just like the way you brought it to the table.
Right.
You've gone the extra mile. You look professional. You look sharp. And I can't tell you how many compliments I've gotten writing these letters and people saying, wow, and even if they don't take my offer, I'll tell you what, they'll remember me when
sure.
the next deal comes around.
Yep.
And they'll look at you as a professional, someone who knows what they're doing, someone that sets themselves apart from somebody else in this industry, in this business. Because we end up if we're working in a specific area, we end up knowing pretty much who the top agents are, who's got what, or you do this business long enough, you get to know each other. You know who's the big fish. And if you present these offers, this way, I guarantee you have a better chance of getting acceptance or getting favorable terms for your clients. Here's one more. This is one I just did doing a deal here with another Alta agent.
You know what? And this is really cool. Rhonda Butler just chimed in. She said, hey, this is a great cover letter, but another great idea is to have the buyer write a letter to the seller. And that's exactly what this is.
Aha. Rhonda, I got you.
I know.
This is
nice
what
work,
I did
Rhonda.
on this one. So Rhonda, in this situation, I actually got the names of the sellers. And with full disclosure, I actually wrote this for my client, and
sure.
I had him sign it.
For sure.
So I wrote this. My name is Edward Owens. I prepared an offer on your property. My fiance Cynthia and I are so excited about the opportunity to live in this Glendale community. We're getting married soon and are excited to begin our lives together. This property is in a great location, close to our work and central to our families and friends. Please review this offer from us. We have written a full price offer. We have great credit and a strong pre-approval and proof of funds to show that we can close in a timely fashion. We hope you'll consider our offer, and we look forward to opening escrow with you. Boom. So he signs this. It's coming directly from him. So you got both versions now. I don't think either one is it just depends on what you feel is the better version. But you guys can certainly, Kevin can certainly shoot these out just as an example,
Sure.
and you guys can take these templates and utilize them for your offers. And I guarantee you are going to get a great response. This is you'll get a lot of mileage out of this.
Yeah, and this goes back to, some of the things that we were talking about last week of being, being a 7-star agent, in a 3-star industry, so this is just, taking things up to the next level. And, because that's how we're going to get the referral business. That's how we're going to get, repeat business. And we're going to continue to work with people that we like to work with. So very, very good, Bill. Any other questions in the chat? I don't see any, but it looks like we have run out of time. Bill, thanks so much for your insight today. We will be joined again next week by Travis Breton. He was doing a little bit of training this week. He's in some classes, doing some further education, and always becoming a bigger asset for us. So, Bill, thank you so much. Agents, get out there, make it a great week. And if you have any questions, of course, contact me directly. And I really encourage you guys to do one-on-one appointments with me. Go to our Calendly link, calendly.com/Alta Realty Group. Book an appointment with me, and let's go through this stuff individually. All right, guys, get out there, make it a great week, and we'll see you next week.